Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Joe with Christina and Brooke. Today we're going to talk about commitments. How do you make them? What goes through your head when you're like, yeah, I got this, I'll do that. And what happens when you go to follow through on that commitment and it backfires or you start doubting, why did I commit to this in the first place? So today we're talking all about commitments. You know where I'm going, Joe.
You need a committee for commitments?
Oh my goodness.
Brooke, that's so true, right? Like sometimes we make notes for our notes and we have committees for our commitments.
I told you guys before we started this that don't even talk to me about this. Go to Joe, but sorry, Joe. Is it okay? Something just popped in my mind. For people who are creative, people pleasers, all of that, we have all these ideas and thoughts about what we should be doing. And we need a COO of our brain before we commit to all of these things. So we've talked about like the why funnel and all that, but what about talking it through with someone who's very logical and knows your calendar and knows your priorities and says, hey, tell me about this. What are you thinking? Before just saying, yes, I can do everything. Just my two cents.
Those are strong 2 cents, man. So you mentioned a couple of things that came to my mind as well, which this was another one of those times where we just like, we need to talk about something. Let's just press record. We're going. I don't think it's an accident that this is the thing that we're talking about with where we are in life, right? So I think one is that people who are people pleasers have a tendency to find themselves, I think, doubting the commitments that they make more often than not. Because I think we tend to say yes way more often than we say no. And for me, it comes back to wanting to make people happy, wanting to help, wanting to feel like I'm helping. And a part of that is I play this game where I don't really consider the impact or consequences long term. Or even if I do, I tend to look at the positive impact more flowery than I do how it might negatively impact me, how it might take away from time that I have that I want to do other things with, which brings us back full circle to priorities. The idea of having I think you said a CEO or COO of your time or of your brain, of your priority, someone who can say, hey, yes, this person, you could totally help them. Yes, you can absolutely help them. Yes, this is what they're asking for. You could do this, but is this your priority?
Mm-hmm.
Is this on your top 3 list of things that you're working on for today or for this month or for this year?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, as hard as that might be, it's considering the consequences or the circumstances of, I'm really excited right now. Am I still going to be excited a month from now
Mm-hmm.
or 3 months from now when I realize, wait, why am I doing this? This wasn't one of the things. This wasn't one of the goals. This wasn't one of the priorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With that being said, and I totally agree, and I know we've spoken about this in the past, then when you decide after 3 months, once you've hit your priorities that you're focusing on, right? After 90 days, how do you know what's important at that point, right? And it's funny because there's this sign that I got from a previous, when I used to teach and then went into administration, one of the parents of a student that I used to work with gave me this, and I've taken it with me. And, don't let fear get in the way of doing things that you might not completely know right away, or like stretching you a little out of your comfort zone. So yeah, you have your priorities for your 90 days, and then there's these bigger commitments that come up, and you either do it or you don't do it, right? And you're right. Does it align with your priorities, your values, your whys? But also, is this something that excites you and stretches you a little bit? And maybe you're a little nervous about doing it, but you got it, right? So use that prior knowledge that you have of all of those things, the values, the priorities, your whys, and then say, is this something I want to commit to? And talk it out with people you trust.
Do you want to say something, Christina?
Sure. I could say something.
This was your idea.
Well, no, because I just didn't want to cut you off. I wasn't sure if you were looking to jump
Yeah,
in.
go for it. Go for it.
Well, because something
Yep,
that I
go
was
for it.
thinking about is I think this is exposing maybe how each of us is coming at this from a different perspective based on where we are. Because I think the way that you're describing it is very different than how I was thinking about it, where my mind immediately goes to examples where I commit to these things that seem to be like low entry. This is easy. It's not a big deal, only to then get in the middle of it and start following through on and realize, oh my God, I didn't consider it. I didn't really think through it in my joy or in my zealousness to want to help out, my zeal to want to help out. I didn't really realize that this is a bigger commitment than I thought it was. This is more than what I thought. And in my mind, they typically always start off as little things that I think are little.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if it's that I'm just missing it and it's really not that little, and I'm just convincing myself that it's little because I want to help out, or if the signs are there and I'm just an idiot and I don't see it.
Or it gets bigger as you get into it. Like, oh, I was just going to do this, but while I'm in there, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, those people who want to over deliver. One thing that came to mind when I commit to things, like if we're in a big group setting, I'm like, yeah, no problem. I want to save other people from being uncomfortable. Like, no problem. I can see the anxiety rising in others. And I was like, no, you go. You're good. I got you. No problem. No problem. And then I'm sitting with this pile of books going, what the hell am I doing? Yes, of course I can do all of these things. And I want to do these things. And in the moment when I commit, I'm like, yeah, it sounds amazing. No problem. But I didn't take into consideration the when. And maybe I want to do it right now, but I can't do it right now. So then it just becomes a chore. It becomes like something that you have to do as opposed to something that you want to do. And then at the end of the day, you're taking away leadership opportunities from others too. Because if you could have delegated that to the group in the room and 10 people each took on one thing instead of like everybody else feeling good, leaving the meeting like, oh, that was a great meeting. I'm happy and free. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a boatload of work to do, which I don't mind. I like to be busy. I wouldn't be happy without things to do. And I know that for sure. But yeah, just what I was thinking of.
Christina, to your point, I think that something that I've had a growing pain with in my business is scaling, right? And you're talking essentially about scaling your life, scaling the school atmosphere that you work in. You can't take on everything, right? But there's this fear a little bit of, yeah, no. Well, for me, it's like, well, if I don't do it, then it's not going to be done the way that I want it. Right? So I've learned that if you're okay with it being 70% of what you would have done or less, then give it. Because if it's, you're head of school, right? You're head of your family, all those things that we like delegate, it's never going to be exactly as we thought it was going to be. It might be better. It might not be better.
But for me, it's like doing it is often easier because I'm going to be asked 15 questions about how I want it done. At the end of the day, if I gave it to you, I don't have a thought or an opinion. I don't care. I just want it done. Just go do it. I'd rather just do it rather than it keep boomeranging back to my plate. Seeking validation, seeking input, like, no, this is yours. This is your baby. Go do it. And many times when I send away to go just get it done, it comes out better than I could have even imagined it to be done.
Yeah. Well, there's this whole graphic organizer that says like, do it and don't tell me, do it and tell me, right? Mm-hmm. All those things, right? And like when you're working for an organization or you have employees or whatever, right? If it doesn't move towards the do it and don't tell me type thing, then what are they good for?
No, I
If-
want to know. Yeah, I definitely want to know, but that doesn't mean that I want to give input.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So many ideas here, Joe. You're like,
I,
that's not what I was thinking.
no, not at all. I love this. I love where we went because it's. I think it's an interesting transition because maybe where we've landed is a thought for us to consider when we're faced with these decisions. Like we're faced with the decision to commit to something or not, and we just naturally took it to us delegating to other people. Like
Mhm.
it somehow landed there, which we could probably guess why that is, right? Because of our positions and where we are in life and who we're working with and who we're working alongside. Maybe that's a takeaway. Maybe that's the takeaway is you're presented, whoever's listening to this, you're presented with something. If you've watched some of these videos, if you're anything like us, chances are your initial reaction is that's me. I can do this. I want to do this. I want to help you. I want you to be happy with me. I want you to like me. I want to help. But ultimately, knowing that if you can pause for a second and consider the consequences, consider the impact long term, filter through, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, filter through, is this one of my priorities? And if it's not, is it something that might become one? Do I want to take that adventure, like Brooke said? Or, you know what? Is there somebody else that can jump in on this? Maybe it's not me. Maybe there's somebody else whose plate isn't as full as mine who can also do it 70% as good as I can, maybe better than I can, to Christina's point that sometimes that's happens. But that might not be a bad strategy to consider. Maybe that's a good default to start trying to work towards is, man, 30 people are coming at me asking me for things. Out of those 30, maybe I can help with one or two. It doesn't mean I'm sending the other 28 away with nothing. I can send them away with, hey, I can't. I love you. I wanted to help you. I can't. But maybe this person can. Maybe that person can.
Maybe,
Or maybe
you can. The person
maybe
coming to you.
maybe it's you,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's me directing you right back to you, be like, hey, as I understand what you're saying, this isn't as difficult or complicated as you think it is. You have the capacity to do this. You might just need a little bit of guidance and wisdom. And maybe I commit to that. I commit to a lower level, or maybe I even pass it on to somebody else or point them in a different direction. So I don't think we didn't go anywhere that didn't make sense. I think that makes perfect sense. That might be the main takeaway for somebody who's listening to this is, can I think of somebody else? Can I redirect them to somebody who can help them, whether it's as well or better or whatever, but they can help them and who has the capacity to help them right now, where honestly, I don't think I do.
Yeah, and I think where a lot of my clients get stuck and where I can see myself getting stuck, which I move away from now, is just make the decision though. It's like, okay, so now that you know who's going to do it or what it is, commit or don't commit. But don't sit there in the unknown for this unknown amount of time and get stressed over it. Because
And make it clear. And make it a clear yes or no. Don't live in the middle ground. Got to make it a clear yes. Make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yes. Do it or don't. Just make a decision.
Exactly. Because the bottom line is we usually don't know what things are going to be like. So, step all the way in, fully commit yourself because you have the time, because you are going to be accountable, or don't commit yourself because you don't have the time and it's not in your priority list.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Exactly. It's okay to say no.
And my takeaway or one-liner for this is commitment is a committee.
You always have one, Brooke. You're always good for it. Commitment is a committee. Okay, we're going to let that soak in. Have a great Sunday, everybody. Thank you for joining us.